Jerry sat on the back porch and watched the sun rise. It was about 4:30 in the morning, and he was smoking his fourth pack of Marlboros and washing it down with his fifth 16-ounce can of Mountain Dew. He was trying to figure out where his life was going. He knew his marriage was over and was wondering whether to move to Miami or Los Angeles. He had family in both cities. He looked towards Ralph and Mary's house and felt sad. Everything went to hell. He could only imagine what Mary had gone through. It had only been 4 months since she had a miscarriage. Jerry noticed the garage light come on and saw someone standing inside. Peering to see who it was, he walked to the edge of the porch and quietly asked, "Mary, is that you?" "Yes," she answered. Jerry walked up to her. He thought he looked terrible, but Mary looked even worse. She threw a small bag over her shoulder and said, "Jerry, I'm leaving. I'm going to visit my parents in Charleston." She hesitated and then added bitterly, "It will be a long time before I return. And when I return, I will file for divorce. I left Ralph a note. I hate him, Jerry. He ruined everything, our marriage and my life." Jerry just looked at her, seeing the pain in her eyes. He hugged her and she pressed herself against him. As they parted, he noticed tears running down her face. "How are you going to get to the airport, Mary?" he asked. Mary looked at him blankly, without answer. "I'll take you," Jerry said. "You're not fit to drive, and it's too early to call a taxi now." Mary smiled sadly. She walked down the driveway and looked back at the house before getting into the car. It was all over for her and Ralph. The road to the airport was silent. After about 15 minutes, Mary looked at him and asked, "Jerry, am I a corrupt bitch? Am I the person who would make a terrible mother? Am I a barren creature? I—" Her voice trailed off. He knew where it was coming from. June and Ralph really harassed Mary. Jerry pulled onto the side of the road. He jumped out of the car, walked around it, and opened the door on Mary's side. Pulling her out of the car, he took her face in his hands and looked into her eyes. "Mary, I'm so sorry for what happened. I should have known better. You were vulnerable after the miscarriage, and I was just a horny idiot. I'm so sorry. You don't deserve any of this. You are smart, funny, and loving. One day you will be an amazing mother. You are everything a mother should be." Mary just looked at him and tried to smile. Jerry held her for about 10 minutes until he felt her breathing become even. As they approached the security checkpoint, Mary's phone rang. "Hello?" Mary answered. "Hello, honey, it's Mom. What's happening? Your message was interrupted, and we did not understand. Dad will meet you at the Charleston airport." Mary smiled. She knew that she could always count on her family. Now she was talking to her mother. "No, Mom, Jerry took me to the airport." "Yes, I know how lucky I am to have him as my friend." "No, Mom, I'll explain everything when I get home." Mary started crying again. She handed the phone to Jerry. "Hello, Mary Ann. I'll put Mary on the plane. Mary Ann, I just want to apologize. It's my fault. I made a terrible mistake, and now Mary is paying for it." Mary Ann didn't know the whole picture, but she felt that something had happened between them. Mary Ann told Jerry that he was now part of their family and that they were grateful to him for saving Mary's life when she had a miscarriage. "What are you going to do?" asked Mary Ann. Jerry sighed and replied, "Well, I need to close some bank accounts, transfer some money, and then I'll meet with Nancy Watkins, the best divorce lawyer in the state. She and I grew up together. And then I will go to Miami with my sister and start a new life." Mary Ann listened and said, "Jerry, I want you to stop by Charleston on your way to Miami. We need to talk, and I will need your help to support Mary." Jerry thought for a minute and said, "I'll stop by. Mary Ann, I apologize again. It's my fault. Don't blame Mary. It's my fault. I can't even express how bad I feel." Mary Ann completed the puzzle. Mary and Jerry were together. June and Ralph found out, and things got out of control. "Jerry, everyone makes mistakes. I understand what happened. Please come. You have family here. No matter what happens, you still remain a part of us. The whole family will be here in 2 days. I want you to come. You need someone to support you. Mary's brothers Patrick, Liam, and Kelly will come along with their wives and children. Honey, you need to let us help you both. Jerry couldn't believe Mary Ann's words. Mary Ann, Mary's flight has begun boarding. I need to get her on a plane. Mary looked at Jerry and handed him a check made out to Nancy Watkins. Please ask if she would be willing to take me on as a client. Jerry hugged Mary and told her she needed to get on the plane. Mary handed the check to Jerry and said, Please come to Charleston. I need you. Jerry looked at her and smiled. It's you and me against the whole world, Mary. I'll arrive in a day or two. Now please get on the plane. Jerry watched as Mary walked down the steps to the plane. When she was out of sight, he collapsed into a nearby chair. Now the hardest part began. He knew that next year would be the worst year of his life, but he needed to face reality and start making plans. Jerry was in his truck when Nancy Watkins called. Hello, said Nancy. Nancy, this is Jerry. I need your help. Jerry, please don't tell me you need my professional services. Come to my house at 8:30. Little Bill will be with his father for the weekend. Thank you, Nancy, Jerry replied. Nancy ran upstairs to take a shower. Jerry arrived at Nancy's house about 30 minutes later. He hadn't washed in almost 36 hours and looked terrible. Nancy opened the door. Jerry, come on. She was shocked by his appearance. Oh my God, Jerry, you look like you got run over by a tank. Jerry just nodded. Now tell me everything. I want all the information, no matter how hard it is to tell you. Jerry sat down at the kitchen table and told Nancy everything. About the betrayal, about June's trap, and what he thought they had done to Mary. After 15 minutes of listening to Jerry's story, Nancy was shocked. She had never heard anything like this before. When Jerry finished, he looked at Nancy. Can you help me? Will you help me? Nancy looked at Jerry and saw the shadow of the man she grew up with. Jerry, I will help, but I need to know one thing. How far are you willing to go? I can destroy June for what she did. She could face charges of conspiracy, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. I can put her away for 40 years. How far do you want to go? Jerry looked at her and said, I just want to get out of this marriage. I don't trust her and never will again. Nancy walked up to Jerry and said, Now I need my legal assistant to come to my house, and you will give a formal statement for the court. We will also make a plan for you for the next 48 hours. I'm worried about you and don't want you to get hurt anymore. I'll call my friend. He's an excellent psychiatrist. I say this from personal experience. Within 20 minutes, Nancy's paralegal was at her home, and after another 40 minutes, the deposition was recorded and signed by Jerry, Nancy, and the assistant. Nancy and Jerry sat back down at the kitchen table. Okay, Jerry, what's your plan for the rest of the day? Jerry thought and said, Well, I'm going to the bank to close my accounts and credit cards. Then I was going to go home to pick up clothes and my belongings. Nancy nodded and then replied, You can cancel the credit cards you and June share and transfer your personal accounts. But don't do anything with your shared checking or savings account. Nancy glared at Jerry. Under no circumstances should you return home until I am with you. You've already fallen into a trap once, and I don't know what's going on in June's head right now. If you go there without me, you'll have to find a new lawyer. Jerry woke up as if from a jolt. He looked at Nancy and asked, Will you really leave me if I go home without you? Nancy kept a straight face and replied, Yes, Jerry, I will. June really screwed up her trap. I'm not going to give her a chance to get out of what she did. If you go there without proper protection, she might claim that you tried to hit her. She might put you in jail. I won't allow this. Jerry just nodded and said he was going to the bank. Nancy gave him her phone numbers. Jerry, I have a friend. He is a judge. I'll go to him to fill out the necessary papers. You'll meet me at Bill's breakfast house at 11:30. Don't come home. Do you understand me? Jerry nodded. I'll meet you at Bill's breakfast house at 11:30. Jerry remembered Mary's request. Nancy, could you also represent Mary? She was treated worse than me. Nancy smiled. I was hoping she would ask me. Yes, I will be happy to represent her. I'm also going to destroy her husband. Jerry gave Nancy the check from Mary. Nancy looked and said that everything would work out in the end. Jerry went to the bank and did everything he needed to do. The branch manager was very helpful and helped close the credit cards and transfer Jerry's money to new accounts. He was glad that the money remained in the bank. At 11:15, Jerry finished his financial affairs and headed to Bill's breakfast house to meet Nancy. At about 11 June woke up. She reached out to touch Jerry, and then she was suddenly overcome by the memory of what happened the day before. Her trap for her husband, the way Ralph had sex with her in their shared bed while Jerry was tied to a chair, and then a trip to Ralph's house and the same with Mary. June sat up in bed. Her heart was pounding. She was angry about Jerry's betrayal, but she was also afraid. Had he and Ralph gone too far? Have they caused too much harm to their spouses? June looked at the chair, and it seemed to her that the chair was mocking her. She heard a voice. You destroyed your marriage, you destroyed your husband. Over and over again, these words sounded in her head. June jumped out of bed, threw on her robe, and went to the landing. She called loudly. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. There was no answer. She went into the kitchen. There was no one there. Jerry usually prepared a buffet breakfast for them on Saturdays. There was nothing in the kitchen. June felt a cool breeze and walked towards the sliding door leading to the terrace. She walked outside and saw 4 empty Mountain Dew cans and an ashtray full of cigarette butts. There were 4 empty packs of Marlboro lying nearby. June ran to the basement. Jerry, 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 she continued to call, searching the house. The guest bedroom was untouched. She walked into the dining room and froze. There were 4 boxes on the table. June looked into them and saw Jerry's diplomas, photographs of Jerry with his parents, Jerry with his sister, and also some files. There were no photographs of the 2 of them in the boxes. June staggered and sat down at the kitchen table. Suddenly, the phone rang. June, this is Ralph. Do you have Jerry? June replied. No. Ralph sighed heavily. June, Mary has left. She left a note. She wrote that I was a damn bastard, that I broke her heart, and that she would file for divorce. June trembled. I never thought they would leave. I wanted them to pay, but I didn't expect it to go this far. Ralph fell silent. June, what have I done? Lord Jesus, what have I done? I need to come to you. Ralph had only been in the house 10 minutes when the doorbell rang. June jumped up and opened it. Nancy stood on the threshold. She opened the screen door and entered the house. Are you June Slater? She asked. June nodded. Nancy began to speak. June, my name is Nancy Watkins. I'm the divorce lawyer Jerry hired to represent him. It's a court order allowing Jerry to enter the house for 60 minutes to get his clothes and personal items, she said as she handed the papers to June. Nancy continued. And this is a restraining order that prohibits you from communicating with Jerry for 7 days. You have no right to contact him for any reason. If you violate this order, I will ensure that you are prosecuted for violating it. She handed June another set of documents. And this is a copy of the legal separation papers that will be filed on Monday. This means that you are now officially separated. Next week, you will be served with divorce papers. This process will take 4 to 6 months, and then both of you can move on. Ralph stood in the doorway and heard every word. Nancy turned to him. Are you Mary's husband? Ralph nodded affirmatively. Nancy looked at him and said, Your wife hired me to handle her divorce case. I advise you both to find good lawyers. You'll need them. Now, June, Jerry is waiting outside with 2 policemen. Where do you want to be while he packs? You can stay in the kitchen, go out to the back deck, or leave the house. June said she would stay in the kitchen. Nancy went out onto the porch. Jerry, it's okay. You can come in. Jerry entered the house, accompanied by 2 policemen. Nancy looked at him and said, Start from the top floor and work your way down. Jerry nodded and went down to the basement to get his suitcase. In a matter of minutes, his clothes were in a large suitcase. He emptied the chest of drawers and collected everything that was on it, lowering the things down. Nancy looked at him. He was as pale as death. "Jerry, sit down for a minute," she said, kneeling in front of him. "I know it's hard, but take deep breaths. Soon this stage will be over, and you will be able to move on." June watched Jerry and was struck by his appearance. Dark circles under his eyes, pale face, shaking hands. Jerry went into the office and filled the boxes that were on the dining room table. In one of them, he noticed their wedding photograph. He pulled out the picture and placed it on the kitchen table. He looked at June and said, "I'm sorry for the betrayal, your revenge, and the fact that our marriage ended. I think you should keep this photo for yourself. It will only remind me of the past." June's gaze burned with anger. She thought, "He cheated on me. Now he is telling me that our marriage is over. I will decide what happens next. To hell with it." She told Jerry, "Do as you wish. As soon as you leave, Ralph will have sex with me until I can't walk. He will have sex with me every day." Jerry calmly replied, "I'm happy for you. You and Ralph will make a great couple. You proved it last night. In 3 hours, I will no longer be in this state. You won't see me again. I gave Nancy power of attorney to handle my divorce case. Today is the first day of my new life. I hope you and Ralph find happiness together." Jerry turned around and walked out the back door to the garage. His reaction was not what June expected. She wanted him to say something about them. June was stunned. She had never seen Jerry like this. He loaded his truck with all the tools, returned to the kitchen, and found Nancy. Jerry hugged her tightly. "I've packed everything and am ready to go." Nancy, Jerry, and the police left the house. June stood on the lawn and watched him drive away. June stood motionless, watching Jerry's truck disappear around the corner. Her neighbors cast curious glances at her, but no one dared to approach or ask what had happened. They just went back to their normal business. Ralph walked out onto the lawn and put his hand on her shoulder. "This is bad," he said. "Very bad. I hope we can get them back." June just nodded, at a loss for words. She turned around and returned to the house. An hour later, he and Ralph found themselves in each other's arms again, this time on the table in Jerry's office. It was a way for June to get revenge, to prove to herself that she was still in control of the situation. When Ralph went home, June went up to her and Jerry's bedroom. She looked at the empty half of the wardrobe for a long time. All his things were gone. Suits, shoes, ties, everything except one robe that Ralph had worn the day before. June picked up the robe, pressed it to her face, and began to cry. This robe was the only thing left of Jerry, the only reminder of their marriage, which now seemed like a distant past to her. She tore off the bedding, crumpled it, and threw it aside. Furious, June tore the sheets as if they were to blame for Jerry leaving. She felt pain in her heart. He left. The real pain came with the realization that he would not return. After her shower, she made the bed with new sheets and lay down. Sexually satisfied but empty and lonely, she spent the first night in nightmares. In her first dream, she saw her wedding day. She was at church, surrounded by friends and family. Jerry stood at the altar, but instead of a wedding suit, he was wearing a blue shirt and beige pants. June tried to say something, but no words came out of her mouth. The next dream was even stranger. She saw 3 children, a boy about 6 and twin girls about 3. They resembled Jerry, but they didn't have any of June's features. By morning, she woke up in a cold sweat. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday passed like a carbon copy. Ralph came over, they had sex, and then June fell into her nightmares. Every night, the dreams became clearer and scarier. In one of them, she saw a woman walking down the aisle of a church towards the altar, but the woman's face was blurred. She didn't understand who it was. By Thursday morning, June was on edge. She hardly slept. All those nights, she was haunted by images reminding her of what she had lost. On her lunch break on Thursday, she was sitting with her office friends at a restaurant when a young guy approached their table. He looked very young, almost like a schoolboy. "Are you June Slater?" he asked. June nodded. He handed her the envelope. "You have received a notification." June opened the papers and saw that it was a notice of intent to divorce. Her friends stared at the papers, their jaws literally dropping. June could not stand their gaze and hurried out of the restaurant. On the street, she felt her legs become weak. Panic seized her. She remembered Nancy warning her that the divorce papers would arrive this week. But now, holding them in her hands, June realized the finality of the situation. Jerry really wants a divorce. He wants to end their marriage. Every morning June thought about Jerry. Where is he? How is he? How does he feel? Her anger at the betrayal began to subside. Instead, there was emptiness. She later called Ralph to discuss what to do next. But he was busy trying to explain to his boss that he did not pose a threat to the company's security. Both Ralph and June also received their divorce papers on the same day. Finally, having contacted each other in the evening, they were exhausted. "We need a good lawyer," said Ralph. "Yes," June answered briefly. Ralph began searching the internet for news about divorce lawyers. One name came up again and again: George Watkins. George had faced Nancy many times in legal battles and knew her tactics well. Ralph made an appointment with George Watkins, but had to wait 2 weeks before the appointment. Finally, June made an appointment for Friday morning. June was sitting in the office of Watkins and Watkins, LLP, when George came into the waiting room to meet her and show her to his office. As soon as June sat down in the chair, she began to pour out her heart. She talked about Jerry's affair, what they did to him, and what was happening now. George wrote everything down quickly and carefully, often asking her to repeat what she had just said. After about 20 minutes of questioning, George looked at her and asked a question. "What do you want to achieve in this divorce? Do you want to keep your home? Are there any special things you need? Car?" June looked at him and said, "I want my husband back. I need my husband." George expected this answer. He asked softly, "When was the last time you had contact with Jerry?" June thought for a moment and replied, "The day he left, almost a month ago." George looked at her and began to speak. "June, let me explain something. First, your husband has hired one of the best divorce lawyers in the state. Secondly, you have committed 2 felonies for which you face 30 years in prison. Third, instead of talking to your husband, you committed adultery in front of him. Fourth, you are still doing it. Fifth, your husband has left, and most likely he does not feel safe around you. You attacked Jerry in a way that will make it difficult for him to recover. It would be difficult for any man to recover. You may never see Jerry again, and he probably doesn't want it himself." June was stunned. George's words were like a slap in the face. She jumped out of her chair and ran into the ladies' room, where she vomited. Cooling her face with a wet towel and looking at herself in the mirror, she finally asked herself the question she feared most. Was it worth it? Was her pain and anger so intense that she destroyed her marriage? But then she threw away these thoughts, remembering, "He cheated on me first. He got what he deserved." 10 minutes later, June returned to the office. There was a glass of cold water on the table next to her chair. "June, your husband has left, and it is unlikely that he will return. The only chance we have is to file for divorce, citing abandonment, and see what happens. I assume your husband's lawyer is prepared for this." June nodded and replied, "I have nothing to lose." George thanked her for the visit and promised to file a lawsuit immediately. "We'll see how Jerry reacts to this." Ralph's meeting went the same way as June's. He left the office depressed and dejected. Nancy's office received 2 notices of abandonment from George Watkins. She had to go to court to protect the interests of her clients. On the day of the hearing, Ralph and June came to court with George. George made his case to the judge first, trying to paint June and Ralph as victims. He spoke for 15 minutes before he finished. Then Nancy took the floor. Ralph and June looked at the floor as Nancy began her comments. She detailed how June tied up Jerry and brought Ralph to have sex with him right in front of her tied-up husband. She recounted June's words and what had happened between her and Ralph after Jerry left. Nancy also noted that neither Mary nor Jerry felt safe in their homes. She added that both of her clients had started to build new lives and would like to finalize the divorce without having to go back. Nancy emphasized that neither Jerry nor Mary wanted to return under any circumstances, since only painful memories awaited them here. The facts were clear. Ralph and June did not deny what they had done to their spouses. As Nancy spoke, June and Ralph looked at each other, stunned. Nancy continued, explaining that the punishment that June and Ralph inflicted on their spouses was so excessive that trust in them was no longer possible. She coldly stated that Jerry and Mary's lives might be in danger. Making a simple analogy, Nancy said, "If a person has a bad heart valve, they fix it, not cut out the whole heart." Finally, Nancy turned to Ralph and June with a question. Why should Mary and Jerry come back? Is there anything else you want to do with them? Maybe stretch them on a rack, hang them by their thumbs, or maybe run them over with a car. The judge turned to Ralph and June and asked them to stand. He began to interrogate them. Ralph, why should I order Mary to come back? Ralph was confused, and the judge interrupted him without waiting for an answer. June, are you planning new attacks on your husband? June quickly replied, I love my husband. The judge chuckled. If this is love, then I don't even want to imagine what you do when you hate someone. June shook, then sat back down. The judge looked at both lawyers and asked, will the case go to trial? Nancy immediately replied, if necessary, then yes. But my clients hope they don't have to come back here. There is nothing here for them but pain. June and Ralph despised Nancy. They considered her an obstacle to Jerry and Mary's return. George thought for a moment and then said, my clients would like to try family therapy to heal these wounds. Nancy laughed and replied, only if you tie them to a chair. George chuckled, appreciating her joke, but June gasped when she heard Nancy mention Jerry and Mary being tied up. The judge ruled that Jerry and Mary would have to return sooner or later, and sooner was better. However, in the interest of their safety, she took Nancy's side. Jerry and Mary could live in Mary's house. Ralph was to move in with June. Nancy smiled, but George looked unhappy. June and Ralph were glad that Jerry and Mary would have to return, but the new living conditions did nothing to restore their marriages. Finally, the judge set a date for the next hearing. Nancy promised that her clients would return in 2 weeks on Saturday. The next time June and Ralph saw their spouses would be nearly 6 weeks after the night of their ambush. During this time, a lot could happen, and a lot has already happened. George looked at June and Ralph and said, well, I returned them. What are you going to do next? I advise both of you to be extremely careful and take things slowly. Try to talk to them in a public place. Also keep in mind that you just got a glimpse of what the trial will look like. Nancy will go against both of you without mercy. Nancy will always be on Jerry's side, and she will not miss a single opportunity to make you look worse. She also seems to have a personal crush on Jerry. This explains a lot about her behavior at today's meeting. June was shocked by this revelation. She looked at Ralph, but he didn't answer. He looked just as confused as she was. Now June understood why Nancy attacked her so actively in the courtroom. This was not just a professional job. Nancy saw June as a threat to Jerry. George looked straight at June and said quietly, don't do anything stupid or do anything that could be considered threatening. The two of you are on thin ice right now. I know the judge may be treating this as a criminal case. Mary's father, Walter, was constantly on the phone with Nancy. He wanted payback with Ralph. Walter, Nancy, and Rose came up with a plan to bring Jerry and Mary back. On the day of the return, everything looked as if a presidential motorcade had visited the city. 5 black Chevrolet Suburbans and a fairly large dump truck were heading towards Mary's house. The last in the convoy was the mechanic's car. The cortege turned onto the street and suddenly stopped at a house. June and Ralph looked through the large window. Mary Ann and Walter were the first to get out of the car. They were then followed by Rose and Mary's 3 brothers and their families. After looking around the house, Walter walked to the middle car and knocked on the window. Mary and Jerry got out of the car, holding hands, and headed towards the house. They looked tanned and relaxed. Miami has been good for them. Jerry looked around, and Mary hugged Rose. They became very close during this whole story. Mary told Rose everything. Jerry had always protected his little sister, and now it was Rose's turn to help her big brother. Rose was determined to never let June get her hands on Jerry again. She watched Jerry and Mary enter the house and thought they were a great couple who would have beautiful children. June and Ralph were surprised by the sight, but both were glad that Mary and Jerry had returned to the neighboring house. Ralph's smile disappeared when he saw the large dump truck begin to back up into the entrance. The front door of Mary's house burst open and Walter carried the nightstand out of the master bedroom. She went straight into the back of the dump truck. Soon all the furniture from the bedroom began to be taken out and loaded into a dump truck. Ralph was stunned. "What the hell?" he shouted, running out onto the lawn. He tried to enter the house, but was hit to the right by Walter. The second blow landed right in the ribs. The third and fourth blows hit the jaw and nose. Walter leaned over and whispered in his ear, "What does it feel like to get punched in the face, you son of a bitch? Did you think you could hurt my girl and get away with it? You're lucky my wife is here, otherwise it would be much worse." June ran out of her house to help Ralph. He staggered back to June's house. Ralph was a big man, but he didn't know how to fight. Mary walked into her now empty bedroom and opened her closet. Ralph's entire wardrobe was still hanging there. Mary asked her mother to bring large, durable garbage bags and boxes from the basement. Rose walked up to her with a smile, carrying a large box of green bags. "Mary, do you need help?" asked Rose. Mary smiled and replied, "I want all of Ralph's things removed from here. Jerry will need a place for his clothes and men's accessories." Both girls laughed. "Men's accessories?" Rose asked, laughing at Mary. "Well, I don't know what he has, and more importantly, I don't know what he needs," Mary answered, still laughing. Rose smiled from ear to ear. Mary sounded like Jerry's wife. Before anyone could say shoe sale, Mary and Rose had packed all of Ralph's clothes into green bags and put photos of them together in boxes. Mary was about to take Ralph's things to the neighboring house, but Jerry stopped her for a minute. He gave her his keys to their old house and his wedding ring to give it back to June. Jerry looked at Mary and said, "Do you want me to do this?" Mary smiled and replied, "Oh no, it will be my pleasure." She walked up to June's house and rang the doorbell. June opened it. "Hey, June, ask Ralph where he wants his things," Mary said, crossing her arms over her chest. June was taken aback by her tone and impudence. Ralph didn't answer. Mary asked June if she wanted Jerry's keys to their house. June didn't know what to answer. Mary opened the door and placed the keys and wedding ring in her hand. "Have a nice day, June," she said, and returned to her house. Mary shouted to her brothers, "Get all his junk out of my house and put it in June's driveway." About an hour later, Jerry came to get his things. He loaded his clothes and tools into his truck and drove off. Mary and Rose carried Jerry's clothes into the master bedroom closet. Mary and Rose were sitting in the backyard by the pool. Mary said quietly, "Rose, I'm so sorry this happened to Jerry. It was my fault. I was lonely, and he was so kind and sensitive that I just took advantage of him. I never wanted to hurt him. He is too good a person to suffer so much." Rose looked at Mary. "You love Jerry, don't you?" Mary blushed and nodded. Rose moved closer to Mary so they could speak more quietly. "Mary, it seems to me that Jerry loves you too. Now he is injured. He is afraid that he might hurt you and get hurt again. He is the kindest person I know, just like our father. If you take care of each other, I see a happy future for you together. You both have a lot to overcome, but I don't think it will be too difficult. You both want the same thing: love, happiness, and family. I know about your operation, and Jerry knows too. To be honest, it doesn't bother him at all. He just wants to be with you. He is sure that one day you will become a wonderful mother." Mary had tears in her eyes. These were exactly the words she wanted to hear and hoped for. Rose said, laughing, "But Mary, I warn you, don't let Jerry participate in the decoration of the house. He has terrible taste in choosing flowers. He doesn't know how to combine them, and you'll probably have to organize his wardrobe, because now he's your reflection." Mary smiled. Yes, Jerry is now her reflection. She could live with that. Of course, she'd have to go through his wardrobe to make sure he wasn't wearing anything too ridiculous. Mary started laughing and Jerry came over to find out what was wrong. "I give up. I will never understand women," he said, shaking his head. Mary and Rose continued to laugh and went into the house. That evening, they went to dinner at the village green pub to relax. Everyone was laughing and having fun. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, the party ended. Mary and Jerry returned home, and the others headed to the hotel. Jerry was looking for boxers and a t-shirt to sleep on. Mary found one of his college baseball jerseys. She often saw June wearing this t-shirt in the morning when she went out to get the newspaper. Mary went to the bathroom to change clothes. Jerry settled down on the sofa when Mary entered. "Do you like it?" Mary asked, standing in front of Jerry in his baseball t-shirt. The top 3 buttons were undone, and Jerry noticed the outline of white satin panties. Jerry was about to get up when he realized that he was raging. Mary looked down and smiled. She walked over to him and sat him down on the sofa. Mary looked into his eyes and said quietly, "It's just me and you against the whole world." Mary took off Jerry's baseball shirt, revealing her amazing half-naked body. "Jerry, I was very impressed by what you told my parents when you came to Charleston. You took all the blame and tried to turn me into a victim. But let me tell you, no one is going to get into my panties unless I want them to. I know when we were walking around Charleston, you said you weren't ready to make love to me, and that when we did, you wanted to be about us and not about them. Well, I want to remind you of how we are together." Mary and Jerry enjoyed the moment of intimacy, trying to show each other all their tenderness and affection. They spent time together, immersed in a world of affection and warmth, slowly enjoying every moment and making it special for both. Jerry carefully hugged Mary. Their touches became deeper and more intimate, but they tried to keep this moment within the framework of tenderness and care for each other. Their eyes met, and they saw only the pleasure, joy, and trust that each other's presence brought them. They felt safe and understood that there was a person next to them who was ready to support and protect. Mary felt Jerry giving her all his attention, showing his care, affection, and tenderness. Every touch and every gesture spoke of how dear they were to each other. Mutual kisses and tender hugs made this moment special, and it seemed as if time had stopped, allowing them to enjoy every moment. Mary knew that these moments would remain with them forever, and there was only warmth and gratitude in her heart. Finally, they both felt that their closeness brought them peace and a sense of peace. They lay next to each other, enjoying the silence and the feeling of the presence of a loved one. That night, Jerry slept peacefully, without worries or restless dreams, for the first time in a long time. He felt protected and peaceful thanks to the fact that Mary was nearby, who gave him warmth and peace. The next morning, when Sunday came, they were close again, continuing to enjoy each other and companionship. Jerry allowed himself to touch Mary gently and gently, showing her his love, and every gesture was imbued with care. Mary felt the warmth of his embrace, and a happy smile played on her face. She knew that this person would always be there for her, and this brought her great happiness. Every moment spent together was filled with sincerity, love, and deep feelings. This was a time they wanted to remember, a moment where they could just be themselves, making each other happy and feeling like they had someone they really cared about. They knew that such moments are the most important in life, and they valued them most. Mary was breathing heavily. Her legs were shaking. "Oh my God, Jerry, what have you done to me?" Jerry just smiled at her and said, "I just wanted to remind you about us." Mary laughed and moved closer to Jerry. "Jerry, I have never received such emotions in my life. My legs are shaking." Jerry hugged Mary and whispered, "Darling, I strive to please you." It was about 9:30 am. Mary took a shower and was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. She didn't know what Jerry preferred, so she decided to cook a few dishes to see what he liked. Jerry finally woke up and walked up behind Mary. She smiled, turned, and said, "I see you are already awake. What do you want for breakfast?" A mischievous smile appeared on Jerry's face, and Mary blushed. She hit him lightly on the arm and said, "Jerry, stop it. I just got out of the shower." Jerry smiled and said that he would be happy with any dish she prepared. Mary was wearing Jerry's baseball shirt. She looked in the mirror and realized that she did not look the way she wanted. She deliberately disheveled her hair to create the "I just had good sex" effect. Mary knew June should have been up by now, so she walked out the side door and down the driveway to get the Sunday papers. June was looking at the birds at this time and, noticing Mary, almost choked on her coffee. "What is she doing in my shirt? This is my after love shirt." June was furious. Mary returned home but dropped the newspaper 20 feet from the door. When she bent down to pick it up, her breasts almost fell out of her shirt. June could hardly contain her anger. Things didn't turn out quite the way she had hoped. But given that nothing had gone her way for June in the past 6 weeks, why should this be any different? June was stuck with Ralph while Mary had Jerry. All the time. Fully. Jerry took a shower and returned to the kitchen. He hugged Mary and whispered, "How are you feeling, dear?" "Jerry, my heart is still racing." "How did you learn this? Where did you learn this?" Jerry looked at Mary. "What I did was an ancient and sacred Indian mating ritual. I have only used it on 2 women." Mary was stunned. "Only on 2 women? On me and June?" She looked at Jerry, and he just nodded. They spent the rest of the day unpacking. Jerry began looking around Mary's house and thinking about what needed fixing. Restoring the back deck, replanting the flower beds, trimming the trees, putting up a privacy fence, cleaning and running the pool. Over the next 2.5 weeks, Mary's house was transformed. He looked like he came out of a magazine called House Beautiful. There was no communication between Mary and Ralph, as well as between June and Jerry. June loved watching Jerry work. He was the son of a carpenter and knew how to do a lot around the house. She missed him terribly. He was so close, but so out of reach. She missed their conversations, the way he cared about her. She just missed him. June looked at Jerry, twirling his wedding ring in her hands. Something inside her was broken. June had not slept well for a long time, and her nightmares were getting worse. On Saturday, Mary was working in the side flower bed, and June wanted to talk to Jerry. He was working on the terrace. His shirt was off, and he looked great, tanned, sweaty. June looked at him from her terrace and felt desire growing inside her. She remembered all the times Jerry had worked at their house, and she had attacked him. Jerry would pleasure her and then have sex until she lost consciousness, after which he would return to work. She wanted his body, and she wanted him more than anything in the world. She wanted him to hug and caress her. She wanted him to make love to her. She was even ready to agree to just good, passionate sex with her husband. Finally, she approached Jerry. She stood behind him for several minutes and then said, "Jerry, can I talk to you?" Jerry sat up straight and hit his head on the bird feeder he had just set up. "What do you need, June?" He took a few steps back and almost fell on a pile of boards, which frightened her greatly. "I want to talk about us. I want to restore our marriage. I really want you to come home. I miss you so much. I need you back in my life. I need our life back." Jerry looked at her. Her hands were behind her back. "Show your hands, June." June took her hands out of the back pockets of her jeans. She understood why Jerry said this, and it made her sad. Her husband no longer trusted her. "June, there is nothing more to discuss here. You said everything 2 months ago. Do you remember?" June blushed. The memory of her tying Jerry to a chair and having sex with Ralph in front of him instantly came back to her mind. "June, if you suddenly forgot, let me remind you." Jerry began to parody her. "Make love to me, Ralph. Harder. I've only slept with 2 men, but I think the first man could use a few lessons from you." Then he mockingly imitated her laugh. "What is it, June? I thought that Ralph was better than me, both as a man and as a lover. Isn't that what you told me when you untied me? June almost fainted. She sat down on the low wall, her legs giving way. Tears flowed down my cheeks. She realized how cruel and destructive her words were. Jerry walked around the corner of the house and saw Mary working in the flower bed. He came up from behind and hugged her. Mary turned around in his arms and looked at him. "What is this for? I liked it, though." Jerry just looked at her and said, "Thank you." Mary heard the entire conversation. She was deeply hurt by what June told Jerry that night. Jerry was kind, caring, and generous. Mary almost felt sorry for June when she saw her sitting on the wall, but quickly thought better of it. She had Jerry and enjoyed every minute with him. Jerry treated her like a princess. The next 2 weeks flew by. Jerry and Mary are used to living together. One Friday, they went to dinner and danced at the Village Green restaurant. They both needed to unwind and have fun. Some of their neighbors were there too, but Jerry and Mary seemed to be in their own world. For June and Ralph, the passion in their relationship had disappeared. Every day they saw Jerry and Mary getting closer. They felt like their own marriages were fading away like the sunset. "June, we need to figure out how to separate them. Jerry has to come back, and I want to be with my wife. We need to get them to go to family therapy, if it's not too late. Ralph, I'll call George and see what he can do. I can't believe it. It shouldn't have ended like this. This is not what I wanted. I want my life back. I want my husband back. I need to take it all back." On Monday, June called George and explained the situation. George listened sympathetically and suggested that she try to get a court order for mandatory family therapy. On Wednesday evening, there was a knock on Mary's door. Mary opened the door while Jerry was in the yard building the locker room by the pool. Mary stared at the paper with the title, "Mandatory Marriage Counseling." Jerry walked around the house and received a similar document. Mary and Jerry looked at each other and laughed. "Jerry, this could be fun," Mary said with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Jerry only replied, "Let's not stoop to their level." The first family therapy session was for June and Jerry. June sat in the waiting room, looking nervously at the entrance. A few minutes later, Jerry and Mary came in. Before June could say anything, Jerry said, "Mary is my support, and I will be her support when she goes through this farce with Ralph." June again felt like she was playing checkers, while Jerry and Mary were playing chess. They protected each other like real couples do. The office door opened, and a slightly balding man stepped out into the hall. "I'm looking for June and Jerry Slater." June stood up, and as Jerry was about to enter, he leaned over and kissed Mary lightly on the lips. June saw this reflection in the mirror on the wall. Her blood began to boil. Dr. Goldman introduced himself and explained what he hoped to achieve during the session. June nodded. Jerry just sat and listened. Dr. Goldman opened the file and asked June his first question. "June, when you found out about Jerry's betrayal, why didn't you talk to him directly?" June looked at her wedding rings. "I don't know. I was angry and wanted revenge." "Okay, June, why did you decide to tie Jerry to the chair?" "I wanted him to feel helpless, to feel the pain that I felt. I wanted him to suffer the same way I suffered." Dr. Goldman nodded, writing something down on his notepad. "Last question, June. How do you think your plan worked? Was the punishment worth it? Did everything turn out the way you wanted?" June began to breathe quickly and heavily. Dr. Goldman told her to lean over and breathe deeply to calm herself. "I think that sounds like a no," he said, summing up. Then he turned to Jerry. "Jerry, how are you feeling?" "I feel great. The first week after I left was hard, but Mary and I supported each other. We talked a lot about what happened, why it happened, and what lies ahead. I like the way my life is going now and our plans for the future. We try to make our relationship as strong as possible. We are learning to understand each other better. It is important for us to maintain openness and communication. We spend most of our free time just talking." "How do you feel about what June said?" "I'm sorry I cheated, and there's no excuse for it. I'm truly sorry. This is something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. But what June and Ralph did was cruel, cold-blooded, and sadistic. Honestly, I still don't understand why they insisted on us returning for a divorce. It would be easier for everyone if we just stayed away. Do you hate June? No. Do you love June? Jerry grinned. Hell no. My love for her and our marriage died 2 months ago. To be tied to a chair with this, most people lose all attachment. How do you feel about June? Absolutely nothing. She's just the person who lives next door. June couldn't believe her ears. Did you and Mary have sex? Sorry, doctor, but what Mary and I do or don't do is no one's business. Why, Jerry? Listen, Dr. Goldman, June and Ralph have been having sex like rabbits for 2 months. Our neighbors asked me what was going on with June and Ralph. It's loud and very detailed. Some of our neighbors can't let their children play outside because of her. She wants the whole world to know what she is doing and with whom. But I'm not like that. My personal life remains private. Dr. Goldman looked at June. Is it true what Jerry says? June was furious. Listen, Jerry, if you had kept your business in your pants, none of this would have happened. Now you are reaping the benefits. When I'm done with Ralph, then we'll have a marriage and a love life again. Jerry laughed. June, there is no us. There is you and Ralph, and there is me and Mary. You said you wanted revenge the night you tied me to the chair, and you got it. You have achieved your piece of flesh. I hope it was worth it. That was the only night you really hurt me. I admit, you left a huge scar on my heart, but Mary is healing it. She is an amazing woman, kind, attentive, and very loving. I don't care what you do with Ralph or anyone else. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I moved on. I have Mary, and I love every day I spend with her. I'm building a new life with her. I like my future, and I don't live in the past. Doctor, thank you for this session. He helped. But this was my last visit. I said everything I wanted. Thank you. Dr. Goldman looked at Jerry. This is all? Dr. Goldman, Mary and I are already seeing a counselor individually and as a couple. We have been seeing Dr. Williams and have been doing so for about 6 weeks now. He helps us deal with our problems. We started going to him as soon as we were forced to return. June looked at Jerry. Do you two go to a psychiatrist to discuss your problems? What the hell does that mean? And then what will happen to me and Ralph? Jerry looked at June and replied, having sex on my desk. Jerry stood up and walked out the door. Mary heard what Jerry said. They walked out holding hands. Jerry, do we have a personal life? Asked Mary. Jerry smiled. He took her hand and kissed it. Yes, we have a personal life. These are like spring flowers. At first, they slowly make their way out of the ground, grow, and then begin to bloom. We will soon be in full bloom. Mary was very pleased with this comparison. They held hands all the way home. June remained in the office. She was stunned. Instead of being a whiner and a weakling, Jerry made a decision and stuck to it. His choice did not include June in his life. June completely underestimated Jerry and the pain she caused him. Now he looked forward to a life without her. The law of unintended consequences began to work. Dr. Goldman, can I come back and talk to you? I'm so confused it's not even funny. I need help. I think I'm going crazy. Dr. Goldman replied, June, how about Friday at 2:30 p.m. until the end of the day? Agreed. I'll be here on Friday at 2:30 p.m. Make sure you have plenty of napkins. I might need them. June entered her house. How did it go? Ralph was waiting for at least some glimmer of hope for himself and Mary. We're screwed, June replied. Did you know that they go to counseling individually and as a couple? Jerry refused to say what they were discussing. He said that their personal life is a private matter. He also said that our neighbors consider me a prostitute because of the way I moan when you have sex with me. Maybe we should close the windows. I don't think we'll ever get them back. Ralph looked at the depressed June and hugged her, but she pulled away. She didn't want what he had in mind at all. That night, June's nightmares got even worse. 2 new ones have been added to the old ones. In the first, she saw Jerry walking along a sandy beach, holding a woman's hand. They were swinging a small child in the air. Jerry had more gray hair, and it was impossible to see the woman's face. The last dream scared June to the core. It was Christmas time. Jerry and this woman were sitting in the large living room next to a huge Christmas tree. Children and grandchildren opened gifts. There were at least a dozen grandchildren. Everyone laughed and smiled. The atmosphere was filled with joy, but June could not understand who this woman was. That evening, Mary and Jerry returned home, and Mary couldn't take her eyes off him. She wanted him badly, but knew she had to be careful. Mary entered the office and sat down opposite Jerry with a serious look. Jerry looked at her. "What's happened? Are you okay?" Mary looked him straight in the eye. "Jerry, it's time for you to stop sleeping on the couch and move to my bed. I love the way you hug me. I love the way it feels when your arms are around me. I feel safe and loved." Mary smiled as she said, "I love the way you hold me. Your touch is so gentle. When you just touch me lightly, I feel on top of the world. It's time for us to be together and make this night special." Jerry looked at Mary, his heart filled with warmth and deep attraction. He could not take his eyes off her eyes, in which he saw the reflection of his own feelings. In these moments, there was something special between them, something that was difficult to describe in words. "I wanted to be with you from the moment we got back here," he finally said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I just didn't want to do anything that could hurt us." Mary smiled, feeling the sincerity in his words, and her eyes also filled with warmth. Now a decisive expression appeared in his gaze, and he said quietly but confidently, "Come here, my dear." Mary stood up and slowly walked towards him. She felt her heart beat in time with his breathing and knew that this moment would be special. Jerry hugged her tenderly, and she sat on his lap with a smile. He felt her warmth, her presence, and this moment seemed priceless to him. It was as if the whole world had disappeared, leaving them alone with each other. Jerry slowly took off her shirt, leaving only gentle touches and trust between them. He wanted them to enjoy this moment, immersing themselves in an atmosphere of intimacy and love. They looked at each other, and Mary felt how every glance from Jerry penetrated into her very heart. "Get up, my beautiful," he said, his voice filled with affection and tenderness. Mary jumped up, and Jerry, without taking his eyes off, continued to stroke her, as if he could not enjoy her presence. They both felt that every moment they spent together was a gift that they treasured. There was nothing hurried in these touches and glances, only the love they enjoyed. Mary could not hide her emotions. She felt so good next to Jerry that her smile spoke of it better than any words. She laid her head on his shoulder, and in response, Jerry quietly whispered to her, "You are the most special to me." These words penetrated to the very depths of her soul, and Mary felt a wave of emotions that overwhelmed her. She hugged him tightly, pressing closer, as if afraid to lose this moment. There were no words in their touch, but this was not necessary. They understood each other better than anything in the world. After some time, they lay next to each other, feeling their hearts beating in unison. The silence was filled with their breathing and a feeling of absolute calm. Mary looked at Jerry, her eyes radiated peace, and she said quietly, "It seems to me that I have found my place in this world." These words warmed Jerry, and he simply smiled, hugging her even tighter. He whispered in her ear, "I will always be there." Mary smiled back, closing her eyes and enjoying the moment. They lay in silence, feeling each other's warmth and enjoying this moment of peace and love. Jerry held her tightly, and both knew that at that moment their world was full of happiness and warmth, and nothing could disturb it. It was just the two of them, and that was enough. In every touch, in every look, they found their meaning. Jerry and Mary enjoyed this moment and knew that in the future many more such moments awaited them when the world would belong only to the two of them. Jerry and Mary lay on the office floor in a state of complete bliss. Unknown to them, Ralph heard everything. He was going to try to talk to Mary. That evening, Jerry and Mary were already in bed. Jerry was reading a book and Mary was watching TV. She turned off the TV and closed Jerry's book. "Jerry, we can talk for a few minutes." Mary found a position with Jerry where she looked into his eyes. He glanced furtively at her breasts. "Jerry, We need to talk about the future. I need to tell you something you may not know." Mary sighed heavily. She understood that this conversation could either strengthen their relationship or destroy it. "Jerry, when I had a miscarriage, I needed surgery. During surgery, doctors removed one of my ovaries. I only have one left. This means that it will be very difficult for me to start a family." Mary looked down and gently stroked his chest. "I may never be able to have children. I may not be able to give you a family." Mary was now stroking his chest with more force, and Jerry knew she needed to let her finish. To stop the bleeding, doctors performed reconstructive surgery, which significantly changed my condition. Now doctors say that everything has become much more sensitive. Jerry, you could say I'm reliving this phase. When we get intimate, I'll have to be careful the first few times to make sure everything is okay. Mary stopped talking and looked away. She was still looking down, not looking up at Jerry. Jerry realized that now it was his turn to support her. "Mary, I know about your situation. I studied this issue, and all that I understood comes down to one thing. If we want to start a family, we will do everything possible and support each other." Jerry smiled, and Mary slowly began to smile back. "Mary, I want you to know that I am ready for this. We will practice in the morning, afternoon, evening, and late at night. We will practice in the kitchen, bathroom, office, and bedroom. We will try all the rooms and even the pool. I wonder what will happen on the spin cycle in the washing machine." Mary's smile grew wider. "True, all this can have side effects. I want to be honest and warn you. You may get burns on your elbows and knees. You may have burns on your lower back and butt. And maybe you'll walk a little strange some days. Do you think you can handle this challenge?" Mary smiled and nodded. "As for your restored innocence, you will control how everything happens. You will determine the date, time, position, and depth of your deflowering." Mary looked at him. "Deflowering." Jerry looked at her. "That's all I could think of." Mary looked at Jerry and said, "What if I can't get pregnant?" Jerry looked at her and replied, "There is an option with Avith. There is adoption. As long as we are together, everything will be fine." Mary felt relieved. Her greatest fear was left behind. "Jerry, I want you to take my virginity. Soon, very soon. I want to belong to you. But please, please be gentle." The next day, Mary spoke on the phone with Rose. "I told Jerry everything. I told him everything, and nothing bothered him. The only thing is, he warned me that I might get carpet burns and might walk strangely." Rose laughed. "Listen, these short pile carpets are a real disaster. My boyfriend gave me burns on my elbows and knees a month ago. Now we only practice on the bed. These things really hurt. The sex was amazing, but damn, these burns are healing very slowly. Mary, I told you my brother wouldn't care. As long as you are together, everything will be fine." June arrived at Dr. Goldman's at 2:30. She was wearing blue jeans and an old soccer t-shirt she found in the laundry room. "June, you look more relaxed than when we met on Tuesday." "Relaxed? I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown. My heart is pounding constantly. I can't eat or sleep, and when I fall asleep, I have nightmares." Dr. Goldman was surprised by her reaction. "June, I would like you to tell me how you met Jerry." Jerry was a senior student, and I was in my third year. He went to several of my lectures. He was very smart and funny. In general, I liked him for a long time. He was the starting cornerback on the football team, and all the girls wanted him. I dated several guys, but it all ended quickly because I refused to sleep with them. I wanted to remain a virgin until marriage, and that's what happened. Dr. Goldman looked at June carefully. "Why was it so important for you to remain a virgin before marriage?" June looked at him and replied, "For many girls, this does not matter, but for me, it was important. I always knew that I slept with only one man, my husband." June continued to tell how she and Jerry met. The girls just threw themselves at him. "One Sunday morning, I walked into his house and saw him sleeping in a chair in the living room. It looked funny. He was all hunched over in a small chair, and some girl was sleeping in his bed. In general, I needed his notes on the course Abnormal Psychology. He made copies for me and then suggested we have breakfast together in the Student Union building. A couple of guys from his team saw us at breakfast. They came up to congratulate him for getting under my skirt. They laughed that I had finally lost my virginity. Jerry stood up, knocked one of them out, and kicked the other out of the building. Then he apologized for an hour for their words. From that moment, we started spending time together. And in March, his last year at university, he invited me to a football banquet. All the girls dreamed of going there, and I went there with one of the team captains. The banquet was fun and touching. All graduates received awards, and Jerry received two, Player of the Year and Volunteer of the Year. Jerry graduated and got his first job in sales. I stayed at the university to finish my studies. In winter, there was a fire in our dormitory, and we were all left without housing. Jerry invited me to move in with him. He said that I could sleep in the bedroom, but he would sleep on the sofa. So last semester I lived with Jerry, but everything was platonic with us, no pranks. This last semester was very difficult for Jerry. He worked almost 7 days a week. A year later, he was promoted to the position of junior sales manager. No one had achieved this before. I was proud of him. About 6 months later, we were with friends, and he got down on one knee in the middle of the dance floor and proposed to me. I was in such shock that I was silent for about a minute. Finally, one of my friends hit me on the back of the head and told me to answer. For the first 2 years, Jerry worked like crazy, 80 hours a week. We spent time together, but that wasn't enough for me. One evening, I told him how I felt and what I wanted. The next week, he changed his team structure so we could have more time for each other. It was wonderful. It's funny, but after that it was like it hit both of us. We competed to see who could undress faster when we returned home. The sex was incredible. It was all short, but like a volcanic eruption. We were crazy for 3 months, and then we went back to work. All my friends were jealous. I would come into the office with a big smile and think, but I just slept with my husband. A year ago, I was promoted. There was simply an unimaginable amount of work. Dr. Goldman looked at June. June, has Jerry ever told you anything about your work schedule? One time I missed his birthday. I was in another city that day. I completely forgot. I was so upset when I saw this on the calendar a week later. I took Jerry out to dinner for his belated birthday. How was dinner? June looked at her hands. Badly. Jerry said almost nothing. I thought I'd make up for it later in the evening. I have black nightwear that he loves. It's transparent and I look great in it. But he didn't even touch me, slept on the sofa. Dr. Goldman looked at June. Okay, Jerry slept on the couch that night. What happened the next day? I had to go to Toronto for a week. I packed my suitcase and Jerry said something like, "Have a nice trip," but it was said with sarcasm. I exploded. I started screaming that my career was as important as his. Who is he to tell me what to do? I called a taxi and went to the airport. Jerry didn't even see me leave. It seems he just went into the garage and waited for me to leave. When I arrived in Toronto, I realized what I had said. She looked at herself in the mirror and asked, "Who is this bitch?" There was so much work that I could barely cope. Jerry began to work a lot at home. He said that he gets more done this way. A month before I found him with Mary, Jerry and I were talking. He asked me what my plans were. He wanted to know if I still wanted to start a family. I looked at him like he was crazy. She got up from the sofa and went into the office to work. The next day, Jerry tried to seduce me, but I wasn't in the mood. I was angry. I don't even know why, but I was furious. Last week, there was a problem with a large exhibition event that I was organizing. This is a huge responsibility, and the organizer fell ill with measles. Who gets measles at 28 years old? So I packed my things and left for Orlando. I left Jerry a note saying I'd be back in 10 days. When I returned, Jerry was very distant. I asked him to meet me at the airport, but he said that I could take a taxi. He had a job. How many times did you call him during these 10 days? I think not even once. So Jerry was out of your sight and out of your head. June looked at Dr. Goldman. No, I love my husband. I would never do that to him. Dr. Goldman looked at June. She sat leaning forward, her hands at her hairline. So what do you think about Jerry not meeting you at the airport? I was so tired that I just took a taxi and came home. I didn't even think about it. Well, June, what do you think? About what? Dr. Goldman began to bring her to the realization of everything that had happened. About everything, where you have been, where you are now, and where you are going in the future. June just sighed. I don't think anymore. I'm just surviving. Can we take a break for 5 minutes? June stood up and went to the ladies' room. All the events of the past year were spinning in her head. Screams and quarrels, betrayal, retribution, her devastation and pain. She returned to Dr. Goldman's office and sat down in her seat again. June, before the betrayal, it seemed that there was a lot of anger, a lot of resentment in your life. Who were you mad at? Dr. Goldman asked. June thought about this while she was in the ladies' room. Who was she angry with? Don't know. I really wanted to get this job. Jerry has been so successful in his career. I wanted to prove that I could achieve the same thing as him. June, from what you said, Jerry is a born salesman. He could sell snow to an Eskimo. This is his gift, what he should do. What is meant for you? What makes you happy? June laughed. What makes me happy? I always wanted to be a first or second grade teacher. I love children. They make me smile. I feel like I'm alive. Fine. How did you become a marketing manager? I don't know. I really don't know. June, it's almost 7 in the evening. I need to go home. Think about everything you told me today. Then let me know when you want to continue. We still need to discuss cheating, your reaction, and where you should go next. I'll be honest with you, June. At this stage, I want to help you deal with your anger so that a similar situation does not happen again. I think you should be alone to prepare for your future relationship. There are 2 more questions you need to think about. Do you believe in forgiveness, and have you heard of the law of unintended consequences? June thanked Dr. Goldman and apologized for taking so long. She understood what he was saying, but she wasn't ready to give up on her marriage. The last questions took her by surprise. When she parked the car at her house, she saw Jerry and Mary, dressed to the nines. They must have been going to dinner. She remembered that feeling. It seemed like decades ago. June entered the house through the side door, took out 2 bottles of red wine, sat on the floor in the living room, and began to pour herself glass after glass, thinking, where did it all go wrong? How could this happen? Another Tuesday, a session with Dr. Goldman. How do you feel? He asked. June looked tired. Well, my life is a nightmare. My husband is courting another woman. I live with a man who is not even close to my husband. Otherwise, everything is just fine. Dr. Goldman got straight to the point. June, tell us how you found out about the betrayal and what happened next. I realized that Jerry and Mary were hiding something. I was furious. I was in so much pain. How could he do this to me? Why? I called Ralph and told him what happened and my plans. We both didn't think they would leave. Dr. Goldman wanted to find out one detail. Okay, June, you returned from Ralph and let Jerry go. What happened next? I was shocked by what we did with Ralph, but at the same time I felt pleased. I had a great sense of power. Jerry stood up from his chair, but staggered and fell to one knee. I wanted to help him, but he told me to leave him alone. He sat on the floor for a couple of minutes, stretching out his legs, as it was difficult for him to walk. I wanted to tell him that I still love him and want to save our marriage, but I'm not going to tolerate cheating. He finally got up and went to the closet for clothes. I was about to say something again, but he just walked past me like I was a ghost. I was furious. I wasn't going to be ignored. He walked down the corridor into the guest bedroom. I followed him, shouting at him. I told him that Ralph was a better man and a better lover than him. Jerry closed the door, locked it, and turned on the TV at full volume. The next time I saw him was when he was taking his things out of the house. Dr. Goldman smiled slightly. June looked at him. Why are you smiling? Dr. Goldman shook his head. June, I needed to understand when you became an enemy. When did you end your marriage? When did Jerry's love for you die? I must say you did a great job. Dr. Goldman wanted June to realize what she had done. June, if Jerry tied you to a chair and had sex with another woman, would you stay with him? How would you feel if he told you that she was prettier, better in bed, and would be a better mother? June looked at Dr. Goldman and blurted out, I would have killed him. She looked at the doctor with anger in her eyes. I didn't destroy our marriage. He got what he deserved. Dr. Goldman brought her to the realization of the truth. Did he really deserve this? What did you expect from Jerry? Did you think that he was a weak-willed person who would endure all this? Did you try to deprive him of his manhood? June was stunned by his words and question. No, no, no. Jerry is strong, but his strength is in his silence. He never brags. He is very smart and caring. He doesn't need to prove anything. When he says he will do something, he does it. No excuses. Dr. Goldman tried to analyze her reaction to the betrayal. Fine. So what was your plan? Have you decided to tie your husband to a chair, let another man have sex with you, abuse your husband, and then expect him to come back to you begging for forgiveness? June sat silently. She had nothing to say. She was still in denial. Dr. Goldman wanted to reinforce his point. June, you are 30 years old. You are not stupid. But unfortunately, you thought that you were the first woman in history whose husband had an affair, and you decided to kill a fly with a bazooka. You went too far, and now you have lost your husband. You are suffering, but he believes that his life is just beginning. You could have an affair with Ralph and later tell Jerry about it. There are many other things you could do. You might look in the mirror and ask yourself, why did my husband want someone else? But you didn't. You could forgive him, and he would likely spend the rest of his life trying to make amends for you. But you wanted to destroy him and failed. June was broken. She simply stood up and left the office. Ralph and June were sitting in Dr. Goldman's office when Mary and Jerry entered. Mary and Ralph went into the office, leaving Jerry and June in the waiting room. June fiddled with her engagement ring and diamond. Jerry, can we talk? Jerry looked up from the magazine. About what? June knew how difficult it would be to get Jerry to meet with her. About everything. About me, about you, about what happened over the past year. What is there to discuss? You got your revenge, your career, and your new comfort boy. June started crying. The lack of sleep was taking its toll. Jerry, please. I'm going crazy. I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. Jerry looked at her. June, I'm sorry, but there's nothing to discuss here. June blinked. Jerry, I'm not the enemy. Can we meet at our home? Please. Jerry recoiled. Hell no. I will never enter your house again. Only in a public place where there are a lot of people. On Sunday at the bookstore at 10:30 a.m. June was hurt by his words about home. She still considered this house to be their common one. Thank you. Jerry went back to the sports magazine he was flipping through. Dr. Goldman looked at Mary and Ralph. How are you? Ralph answered first. I'm holding on. Mary said, I'm fine. I returned to work at the hospital. In my personal life, everything is going very well. Ralph looked at her in disbelief. Are you doing well in your personal life? You are cheap, deceitful. Dr. Goldman quickly interrupted. Ralph, there will be no such words here. Mary looked at Ralph. Come on, Ralph, tell me. What was it? Bitch, or girl of easy virtue. You're such a hero to say that when I was tied to a chair. Come on, strong man. Say it. Ralph was stunned. You see, Dr. Goldman, Ralph loves to be in charge. He considers himself a gift from heaven. He is the ideal corporate man. Just like his daddy, sarcasm literally oozed from Mary's voice. My father worked hard to provide for his family. Yes, he provided for his family, but he never abandoned them in difficult times. When things went wrong, your mother could always rely on him. And I can't even rely on you to take out the trash. The only thing you care about is your precious career. In 60 days, you will be able to devote yourself entirely to your career, and I will be with Jerry. He loves me. Everything I do for work, I do for us. For our sake. Do you understand this? Ralph's face turned purple. Everything you do only for yourself. I never asked you to go away for 48 weeks out of 52. But it will end soon. You couldn't even quit your job when I had a miscarriage. I almost died, but for you it was nothing. Jerry saved my life. He was there while you were having fun in Thailand. For you, everything is about appearance. Well, I hope your visibility will keep you warm at night. June and Jerry heard screams. Jerry could feel the tension in Mary's voice. Mary looked at Dr. Goldman. I've had enough. I can't be around Ralph. She opened the door and went out. Before leaving, she showed Ralph an obscene gesture. Jerry held out his hands and Mary rushed towards him. Jerry whispered, "Come on, it's time to go home." The road home was quiet. Mary entered the house and went straight to the bedroom. She fell onto the bed, feeling sad, angry, and hurt. Jerry closed the door behind her and left her to her own devices. An hour later, he brought her dinner in bed steak, mashed potatoes, and salad. "Wake up, sleepyhead. We need to eat." Mary looked at the food and smiled. "I'm so lucky to have you." Jerry just sat down on the bed and finally said, "We're out of the hole. They're still trying to play their games. They don't understand and are unlikely to ever understand." Mary looked ready to cry. "Jerry, stay with me. I need you to hold me, please." Jerry smiled. "How can I refuse the offer of such a beautiful and sexy woman? I will try to be a gentleman tonight. Tomorrow I might have to take a cold shower." "Jerry, you don't have to be such a gentleman," Mary said with a devilish smile. Jerry smiled and spanked Mary's ass. "Let's see." He cleaned the kitchen and went to bed with Mary. She moved closer to him. "Hold me." Jerry hugged Mary and pulled her towards him, whispering, "You and me against the whole world." Mary smiled and dozed off. The next evening, Jerry and Mary had dinner at a Mexican restaurant. "Mary, I'm meeting June at the bookstore on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. She asked to talk. At first I didn't want to, but then I realized there were things I needed to tell her." Mary looked at Jerry. "Are you sure this is a good idea? Have you consulted Nancy?" Jerry didn't think about it. "I'll check, but I wanted you to know first." Mary looked at him. Why? She knew the answer, but she wanted to hear what he had to say. Jerry looked into her eyes. "You are the most important person in my life. I haven't been this happy in a very long time. I don't want you to think that I'm doing something behind your back." Mary smiled. It was even better than she expected. "Go meet June. But remember, you are mine," she said, half seriously, half jokingly, but she wanted Jerry to know how much she loved him. Jerry was sitting in a bookstore with coffee, reading a fantasy football magazine. The season has almost started. June came over and said, "Hi, thank you for meeting me." Jerry looked up and nodded. Taking a deep breath, he asked, "So, June, what is this all about?" June was scared, angry, and unsure. She herself wanted this meeting, but did not know what to say. "Jerry, I really want you to come home. Ralph and I want to try to repair our marriage. Jerry, I love you. I miss you so much it's tearing me up. We can sell the house and move if it's easier. We can go to Washington, Miami, New York, or Los Angeles. I don't care where, as long as we are together." Jerry looked at her. He wanted to explode, but he knew that would give June an excuse to use his reaction against him later. "June, I'm home. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm happy and content. I haven't been this happy in a very long time." June looked at him, not knowing what to say. "Jerry, do you understand how much your betrayal hurt me? Can you imagine what it's like to feel such pain? It's like you stuck a knife in my heart." June felt relieved to finally say it. She should have told Jerry this back when everything came out. Jerry understood her feelings. He nodded. "June, I will take this betrayal with me to the grave. She shouldn't have existed. But let's be honest. You didn't need me for the last few months before this. The only thing you cared about was your job. I was a burden, a nuisance, someone to be tolerated. You went to Orlando for 10 days and didn't even call to say you arrived safely. June looked out the window while he spoke. She knew everything Jerry said was true. I know. I tried to compete with you. I was and still am jealous of your success. You make it all look so easy, and I have to work as hard as I can to achieve at least half of your results. Do you know what it's like to live in your shadow? Jerry looked into her eyes. Why do you need me? Why should I come back? You have Ralph. He is the best man and lover. June started to get angry. Jerry, I said that to shake you up. I wanted to hurt you the same way you hurt me. June, you and Ralph will never understand what you did to us. This is far beyond your comprehension. We survived your attacks. The old saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, is fully applicable to our situation. Mary and I are devoted to each other. We have been together for a long time. I have a good idea of where we're going, but I'll be very careful with Mary. I don't want to ruin everything. June's anger grew. So you're planning a future with Mary? Then know that I will do everything to ruin your life. Jerry simply smiled. So you're going to act the same way you did the last 3 months when we lived together. These words confused June. Jerry stood up and headed to the cash register to pay for the football magazine. Maria was working at the hospital on Sunday when Ralph showed up with a huge bouquet of flowers and a bottle of champagne. He tried to take Maria to a separate room, but she flatly refused. Ralph began to put pressure on her, but when Maria threatened to call security, he left in a rage. Maria entered the house and slammed the door behind her with a bang. That fucking son. She began, but fell silent when she saw Jerry sitting at the table with a huge bag of ice on his head. Maria ran up to him. What happened to you? She removed the ice and examined his head. Honey, you're going to need stitches. Jerry sat in the hospital waiting room, waiting for the doctor to stitch him up. What happened? Jerry looked at her. You won't believe it. She gently stroked his back. Tell me, I will believe you. Meeting June was a waste of time. She just complained and made a scene. We finished around 10:50 in the morning, and at about 1:30 she called and said that her kitchen drain was clogged. She asked me to fix it, otherwise she would have to call a plumber. Considering that an urgent call to a plumber costs $300, I went to help. I climb under the sink, remove the siphon, when suddenly she comes up, takes off her robe and stands in front of me completely naked. Then he tries to take off my pants. I hit my head on the cabinet trying to get out from under the sink. Oh yeah, now she'll have to call a plumber after all because I couldn't get the trap back on. Maria's head was ready to explode. This vile, dirty creature. How dare she interfere with my man? The doctor finished stitching and Jerry suggested, Maria, let's just go home. When they returned, Maria tucked Jerry into bed and made sure he was comfortable. Late at night, she came into the bedroom, put her arm around him, and pressed herself against him. She felt peace and tranquility. There was a long 4th of July weekend ahead. Maria hummed constantly, and Jerry did an excellent job leading the sales team. Ralph was returning home when he heard Jerry and Maria discussing their plans for the weekend. They were going to go to a small, cozy guest house in Newport and spend a romantic weekend. Ralph was furious. He returned to June's house and waited for her to return. When June entered, Ralph attacked her. She didn't understand what was happening, but she liked it. Ralph roughly tore off her blouse and unclasped her bra. Ralph and June found themselves alone in the room, their intimacy becoming more and more intense. He leaned her over the sofa, and they began to move in rhythm, completely absorbed in the moment. Their movements were swift, as if every moment was the last. June could barely contain her emotions, and Ralph continued to maintain control over the situation, subordinating his feelings to her. At some point, their passion reached its climax, and they both felt liberated, allowing themselves to lose themselves in this closeness. June was covered in sweat and could barely stand on her feet. When she came to her senses, she looked at Ralph. What was that? You haven't made love to me like this since the first week we met. "What's going on, Ralph?" Ralph looked at the floor. "Sorry, June. I overheard Jerry and Maria discussing going to Newport. I got so angry that I wanted to kill Jerry. But I realized that I couldn't do this, so I decided that we both needed to let off some steam." June was shocked and saddened by his words. She looked at him and asked, "Did you imagine that you were sleeping with Maria?" Ralph couldn't look her in the eye. Everything became clear to her. June gathered her clothes and went into the bedroom. She sat down on the chair to which she had once tied Jerry and began to sob. This is where it all began and ended. June looked at the wedding photographs and her and Jerry's university diplomas. There was a large photograph of their honeymoon on the dresser. It showed them together. It was one of the few days when they left the hotel room. The maid literally kicked them out of the room to clean up. In her heart, June tried to put her thoughts in order. Then she took a glass of wine and headed into the living room. "Ralph, I think you should find yourself an apartment. We can't bring them home. Jerry needs a home where he can return. When he leaves Maria, you can return to her. In the meantime, we are stuck in this vicious circle." Ralph thought it over and agreed. It was Tuesday afternoon when June saw Maria lying by the pool enjoying the sun. She knew that Maria would most likely drive her away, but she decided to try anyway. "Maria, can I talk to you?" Maria looked up and saw June in work clothes. She sighed and walked over to her. "Of course, June. What's happened?" June looked at Maria in a bikini with envy. She looked relaxed and pleased. She had Jerry to take care of her. "Maria, Ralph is moving to a separate apartment. It's time for Jerry to come home and for Ralph to come home to you." Maria smiled. "June, I'm not forcing Jerry to sleep with me. He stays in my bed of his own free will. I'm not going to tell him to come back to you. Even if I did, he would never come back, not after what you did. Maria, I forgave Jerry for his affair. It's time for us to work on our marriage." Maria looked at her as if June had grown a second head. "Have you forgiven Jerry? How kind of you. But what makes you think he has forgiven you?" June froze. "Forgive me? For what?" Maria just grinned. "Jerry was right. You don't understand anything. You and Ralph don't even realize what you've done. I thought Jerry was exaggerating. I thought that one day it would dawn on you how much pain and grief you caused. Damn, Jerry was absolutely right." June looked at her intently. "What are you even talking about? You two have been sleeping together like bunnies ever since you got back together. Ralph and I do the same thing too. What's the problem?" Maria just stood there, looking at her. "How are the rabbits?" "June, I'll tell you a secret. Jerry and I haven't had sex since you set your sneaky trap. In fact, we ended everything the day you came to me, suspecting he was having an affair. He was so broken by your actions that he was ready to commit suicide. If it weren't for his sister Rose, you would already be a widow. You are such a stupid, stupid woman. You really don't understand anything." Maria's head was ready to explode. "Jerry and I haven't made love yet, but it will happen soon, and you will know about it. I'll make sure you understand. Maybe I'll even videotape it for you." Maria turned around and walked away, leaving June, who was still trying to comprehend what she had heard. June thought, "Are you going to commit suicide? Jerry? No, he wouldn't do that. He's too strong for that. Things couldn't have been that bad that night. Unless—" Maria returned to the house and was ready to scream. Jerry was right all along. Maria decided that this Friday everything would change. This will be the night she loses her innocence again. Jerry was working in his home office, having finished another conference call. Maria came in and sat on his lap. "Everything will happen this Friday. I will become yours in every sense, and you will become mine. I want you to know how much this means to me. I love you so much that sometimes it even hurts." Jerry simply hugged her and smiled. On Friday morning, Maria fluttered around the house, full of energy. Jerry noticed her to-do list. Candles, Victoria's Secret lingerie, music, a disco ball. "What are we going to do with the disco ball?" he thought. "This will definitely be one of those nights." Maria was about to go to the mall when Jerry stopped her. "Maria, I have something for you." I know this evening will mean a lot to both of us, but I want to give you something that is important to me. He took out an old black box with a ring. My mother wore this ring for almost 50 years until she died. It's not a large diamond, but there's so much love in this ring. I want you to wear it. I want you to become my wife. Maria leaned on the kitchen table while he placed the ring on her finger. Yes, was the only thing she could say. Jerry patted her on the thigh. Now you can go with a smile. Maria left the house in high spirits. Everything went according to plan. She bought everything she needed at the mall and returned home. She rushed past Jerry and disappeared into the bedroom. After a while, she went into the kitchen. Jerry, don't peek. Jerry laughed and promised to stay away. He heard Maria running around the house, moving things. At 7 p.m., Maria left the bedroom. Jerry, it's time. Jerry walked into the room and couldn't help but smile. There were lava lamps and a disco ball on the dresser, and rose petals were scattered on the bed. The aroma of burning scented candles was simply magical. Maria was wearing a silk robe. She turned her back so he could see the sign, Jerry's Girl. Jerry smiled and nodded. Maria led him to the bed and took off her robe. Underneath was a cotton nightgown. On the chest was the inscription, Jerry's Mountains, below, for Jerry only, and on the back, Jerry's Special Zone. Maria looked at him with lust. Are you ready, my love? Jerry nodded, and Mary gently asked him to lie down. She came closer, leaned over him carefully, and kissed him with feeling. Her touch was soft, and there was tenderness hidden in her movements. Mary allowed herself to relax and feel close to Jerry, trusting every moment. They looked at each other carefully, feeling the warmth that emanated from their bodies. Jerry gently ran his hand along her back, calming her and supporting her. Mary smiled, feeling his caring touches penetrate right into her heart. I feel so free with you, she whispered, looking into his eyes. Jerry, seeing her openness and trust, smiled back. He gently touched her cheek, as if he wanted to remember this moment forever. Mary felt her heart beat faster. She closed her eyes, enjoying every second, and Jerry gently hugged her, allowing them both to lose themselves in this moment of intimacy and togetherness. A feeling of calm reigned in the room, and the atmosphere became magical, as if the whole world had stopped, leaving the two of them to enjoy this quiet and romantic night. Suddenly, the music started playing, and the colorful lights of the disco ball shone, illuminating the space. Mary laughed quietly as she saw how the unexpected mirth added lightness to their moment. Jerry smiled, realizing that life was full of surprises and that each of them made their bond even stronger. June heard the noise and ran to Mary's house. She crept to the window where the light was going out. She could hear Mary and Jerry. Mary turned on her back and smiled, looking at Jerry. Her eyes shone with anticipation, and her voice said quietly but clearly, I want more. Jerry, with a slight smile on his lips, stood next to her, feeling the feeling of something important and deep growing between them. His touches were gentle and careful, as if they were creating something beautiful and fragile. They exchanged glances, feeling a deep connection with each other, and the words spoken in a whisper seemed to protect this moment. More, Jerry? Don't stop, Mary whispered, her eyes sparkling with a sincere desire to be closer to him. Jerry slowly approached, his fingers touching her skin, causing slight goosebumps. He leaned towards her, their faces so close to each other that they could feel each other's breath. Mary wrapped her arms around Jerry. Her touch was gentle, and her voice full of tenderness filled the room. You make me so happy. Every moment they spent together was full of sincere love and awe. Jerry looked into her eyes, seeing everything in them from gratitude to absolute happiness. Their embrace became closer and closer, and their hearts beat in unison, creating their own melody. It was the moment when the world around disappeared, and only the two of them remained together, alone with the warmth of their feelings. Mary smiled, her gaze full of love and hope. I want this moment to last forever, she said, her voice shaking. Jerry responded, stroking her hair and feeling overwhelmed with emotions, tenderness, care, and deep affection. In this warm and private moment, they were simply next to each other, enjoying what connected them, their love, their closeness, their common dream for the future. Time passed slowly, and nothing could disrupt this fragile but powerful union of two loving hearts. June slid down the wall and began to sob. Mary told her that when they made love, June would know about it, and now she heard it in all its glory. June returned to her house and called Ralph to tell him what had happened. "June, why didn't you tell me what Mary said?" asked an angry Ralph. "I thought she was just blowing smoke. I decided that since we did everything under the sun, they did the same. How was I supposed to know they weren't having sex?" June was emotional in her response. Ralph got angry and hung up in June. When she heard the buzzer, she screamed, "Well, go to hell." Mary held Jerry and smiled. Jerry began to stir and tried to stand up. "Where do you think you're going?" Mary asked Jerry. "I need to take a shower. You're making me tired." Jerry answered, laughing, "Forget it, buddy. I'm not done with you yet. I may let you shower tomorrow if you're lucky. Now go back to bed. I have something else I want us to do. I've never done this before." Mary smiled from ear to ear. Mary sat down on the bed, feeling slightly nervous. She was a little nervous, but her thoughts were focused on her trust in Jerry, on their bond that grew stronger every day. She looked at the small bag next to the bed and, taking a deep breath, reached for it. Inside was a small bottle containing something that would help them take the next step. "Jerry, I want to try something new," she said quietly, catching his eye. There was a mixed cocktail of excitement and anticipation in her eyes. She didn't know exactly how it would be, but she was sure of one thing: she wanted to do it with Jerry. "I've never done this before, but I want to try. With you. Do you trust me?" Jerry approached her, his face expressing both concern and support. He sat down next to her and hugged her, pressing her to him gently but confidently. There was not a drop of doubt in his gaze, only sincere affection and readiness to be close in this new experience for both of them. "Of course, I'm with you, Mary. Let's do everything the way you want," he answered softly, stroking her back. His touches were so gentle that her excitement gradually began to subside, giving way to a feeling of security and warmth. Mary smiled and nodded, feeling her heart speed up slightly. She understood that this step was important for her, and she knew that Jerry would do everything to make her feel comfortable. He began to caress her slowly, paying particular attention to her reaction and trying to catch every emotion to make sure she didn't feel awkward. His touch was confident and attentive. He felt her body relax in response to his actions and understood how important it was now to create an atmosphere of trust and understanding. Jerry paused for a moment to look into her eyes, as if asking, "Are you ready? Is everything okay?" Mary answered him with a soft smile and a quiet nod, which added to his confidence. They continued to move forward slowly, and Jerry did his best to be as careful as possible. He watched her reactions carefully, stopping each time she needed more time to adjust. Mary began to moan quietly, not from pain, but from the feelings that were rolling over her in waves. These sensations were new and unexpected, but she felt the safety and support that Jerry gave her. Mary guided him gently, whispering to him what she needed, telling him what to do next. She felt their connection become stronger and realized that this was not just a new physical experience, but something much more. She trusted Jerry every second, and this trust became the basis of everything that happened between them. After a while, they both felt the tension give way to complete harmony. They moved together and Jerry took his time, realizing how important it was to be patient now. Mary enjoyed every moment, feeling that she was not just with Jerry, but that a special spiritual closeness had arisen between them. This intimacy was much greater than the physical intimacy they experienced. It was a feeling of complete understanding of each other, trust and care that went far beyond one moment. Mary felt her soul opening up to Jerry and knew that this experience would stay with them forever, making their bond even stronger. When they finally stopped, Mary turned to Jerry and hugged him. She was grateful to him for being there, for his patience and love. Jerry smiled at her, his eyes shining with tenderness and love. They understood each other without words at that moment. There was nothing between them but love and trust. After 5 hours of sex, Mary fell asleep in Jerry's arms. The next morning, Jerry and Mary went to bed late. Mary looked at the alarm clock, and it showed 11:45. She slowly got out of bed and looked around their bedroom. What a night, she thought. Everything went better than expected. She looked at her left hand and marveled at the diamond ring. She thought to herself, I hope I get 50 years out of this ring too. Mary put on her nightgown and robe and went to the kitchen to make coffee. The house was so quiet that she could hear the crickets outside. As she looked into the refrigerator, she felt something poking her in the back. Well, good morning, my love, Mary said, kissing him. Jerry felt that Mary was encouraged and was ready to hit the road again. Jerry, stop it. I need to take a shower. I'm a complete mess. Look at me. Jerry laughed and said, shouldn't you go get the newspaper? Mary's eyes widened. What do I look like? There's no way I'm leaving the house without tidying up. Jerry smiled and looked at Mary. How many times did you shake your hair to achieve the look you wanted? I know you want to piss June off. Well, here's your chance. Don't pretend this time. So what are you going to do? Mary thought about it for a minute and then decided, is there anything you need at the end of the driveway, honey? Jerry shook his head no and watched as Mary went to get the newspaper. Mary was walking down the driveway when June and Ralph raced across the lawn. Ralph was beside himself. How could you? You had sex with him in our bed. I can't believe you. What the hell is wrong with you? June was about to say something when Jerry spoke as he walked down the driveway. Is there a problem, Ralph? June? You have a fucking huge problem. You had sex with my wife last night. Ralph was shaking. Jerry looked at Ralph and June. What have you two been doing for the last 3.5 months? Playing Scrabble. By the way, Ralph, last night we made love, not had sex. The difference is huge. Why is this so important to you two? You both got exactly what you wanted. June reacted. Did you get what you wanted? You are having sex with another woman. We haven't spoken or been like a married couple since. Since then. Since the night you ambushed me, June. Mary and Jerry finished her sentence for her. Jerry moved on. We are exactly where June knew we would be. She knew how this would end. She knew that I would never return to her after this. I'm not going to sit back and let another man have sex with my wife, in my bed, in my house. June got exactly what she wanted. June was ashen. She finally realized what she had done, what she and Ralph had done. Mary looked at June and said, by the way, June, Jerry proposed to me yesterday morning and gave me his mother's ring. She wore it for 50 years before she died. There's a lot of love in it. Mary showed her left hand to June and Ralph. The bright light of the ring could not dim the smile on Mary's face. As soon as the divorce is final, we will get married. Then we're going to take care of the family. June looked at Jerry and sobbed, please, Jerry, forgive me. I didn't understand. I really didn't understand. I'm sorry. Please, you don't understand. I was so angry and hurt. Jerry nodded and led Mary back into the house. Ralph did not contest the divorce and agreed to split all their assets 60-40. The house will be put up for sale. June was struggling with her divorce until Halloween. She met a very pregnant Mary at the mall. Mary and Jerry were planning to start a family. June was all alone. Jerry and June agreed to split 50-50ths along with the sale of the house. Jerry and Mary moved to Jacksonville for new jobs as Southeast Region AVP, and Mary took a job at a local hospital. It took a while for both houses to sell due to the crazy real estate market. It took about a year to sell them. Both closures took place on the same day. Jerry and Mary arrived with Walter Jerome in his baby carriage. June saw the child and smiled sadly. Ralph simply turned away. It was at this moment that he realized that the child was supposed to be his son. 2 years later, Mary's twins were born. June's nightmares were a glimpse into her future. She ended up becoming a teacher while Ralph stayed on the road. Neither of them stayed in touch. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. 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 Click to the next one.